you know where you stand. And this is streaming onto YouTube as we speak, so people can watch it there as well. Good. So very, very warm welcome to this week's session, Space to Breathe. And we're back to the, excuse me, we're back to the normal format this week. Last week we had the movie evening, that wonderful film, My Year of Living Mindfully. And this week we've got a half-hour practice, and I'll just say a few words at the beginning. And we've been doing this poll at the start of sessions, which I found very interesting. So tonight I would, scoring yourself from 1 to 10, and there's no value judgment here, it's just a way of tuning in on yourself. What shall I ask you tonight? How open are you feeling? Open to your own experience and open to the experience of others. So 1 will be not open at all, and 10 will be extremely open. So just put in a number, and then we can just get a bit of a sense of the weather, if you like, the openness weather in the group. And if you have your chat box open, you can just see those streaming in. I find this really interesting. And we've got a lot of pretty open people here, which is very good. And of course, if you're not feeling open, then that's absolutely fine as well. And hopefully you may feel more open by the end of this evening. Good. Wonderful. Good. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. Just put those in if you still haven't. But the rest of us, we can get quite a sort of sense of what it is. And I don't think we've actually got anyone under 5, which is pretty remarkable. So we've not got anybody so far, or anyone who's been willing to put the number, who's less than half open, which I think is very, very encouraging in these times. That's something I just wanted to touch on at the beginning tonight, is these times that we're living in, and why are we doing what we're doing together tonight, and how can what we're doing together tonight help? That's what I just wanted to touch on. So as I often say at the beginning, I go back through my calendar and I try to see how many weeks has this been going on now. And we are now moving into the 12th week. So next Monday will be 12 weeks since Boris Johnson announced the lockdown here in the UK. And I know some of you have tuned in from other countries where the situation is different, but most people will be from here. And obviously this is my experience of living in this country that's been in some sort of lockdown for nearly 12 weeks. And although it's eased here, it hasn't eased that much, really. You know, we're still leading a very changed life from how it used to be. But as the lockdown's easing, I must say I notice in myself, I'm feeling more kind of wobbly than I felt when it was all very clear. You know, some weeks ago, we all knew what we were doing, and it was hard, of course, for many people. But we could be kind of certain in the boundaries of the lockdown. Whereas now, the innate uncertainty of life is much more apparent. So life is always uncertain, but we tend to live our lives assuming things will stay the same. But of course, things will never stay the same. But we can sort of get away with that assumption a lot of the time. But now we're really faced with the deep uncertainty of the human condition of life. So the only thing we can really be certain about at the moment is uncertainty. And that's quite destabilizing for many of us. And it's interesting, I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in New Zealand this morning, and they are now more or less completely out of lockdown, apart from border controls. So she's dealing with uncertainty of suddenly going back to commuting and working in an office, and you know, rather than it being, oh wow, back to normal, back to the way it used to be, she's also got a sense of loss. Some of the freedom that she'd been experiencing has gone. So even when the lockdown eases, it still brings up these sort of slightly destabilizing feelings of living with change. That's really what we're up against at the moment, is living with change. So how do we respond? What's the kind of wise way as a human being to live in these times? And and of course, we've not only got COVID, but we've got the appalling killing of George Floyd in America and the protests around the world. We've got economic um, damage, and I think that's probably going to get worse over the coming months. Things will become more, it will become more apparent how difficult things are over the coming months. So we've got multiple challenges, multiple uncertainties, sort of upheavals, multiple upheavals going on. So how do we respond? And traditionally in Buddhism, the two main qualities that we're encouraged to cultivate, and these are the qualities that have been brought into the mindfulness world, the secular mindfulness world. And the two qualities are wisdom and compassion, or awareness and kindness. So these are the two big kind of clusters, if you like, of practices that we can do to help us cope with these times or any times. And it's to become aware, wise, present on the one hand, and then to become open, kind, and compassionate on the other hand. So tonight I want to do a practice which will be cultivating both of these skills of awareness and presence, and openness and kindness and compassion. Compassion traditionally is the emotion that arises when love meets suffering. So when our own kindness meets suffering in ourselves or other people, it becomes compassion. It becomes kindness in the face of difficulty. And again, that's of course really needed at the moment. And there's a beautiful image traditionally of wisdom and compassion, and they're seen as the two wings of a bird. So you can imagine this beautiful bird, and it's got these two wings that are perfectly balanced of awareness, wisdom, presence, and then kindness, compassion, openness, openness to self, openness to others. And there's a really wonderful story I'm going to share with you, and then we'll do the practice that will be unpacking it a wee bit. And this is from a guy called Jeffrey Hopkins, who was the translator for the Dalai Lama when he first came to the West. So this was decades ago. And Jeffrey Hopkins he's a Western scholar who'd been with the Dalai Lama in India, attended lots of teachings, lots of translated a lot of the time. And in India, some of the teachings were very, very complicated. They go on for days, these highly kind of metaphysical, philosophical investigations of the mind and of the heart. And then the Dalai Lama came to the West and he had one thing to say. And the single message was, nobody wants to suffer and everybody wants to be happy. So every interview with every news channel, he just said the same thing. Nobody wants to suffer. Everybody wants to be happy. And this guy, Jeffrey Hopkins, thought, what is wrong with the guy? You know, why is he giving such a simple teaching all the time? And but then when he reflected much more deeply, he realized if everybody lived with that kind of awareness, that we were that empathetic with other people, that all of us, all the time, no matter what our actions, that's the desire that we're trying to fulfill. We're trying to avoid suffering, and we're trying to be happy or content or fulfilled. And sometimes it may seem incredibly misguided the way other people go about it, and we can react to that, we can oppose it, polarize with it. But if we were able to live from that much deeper sense of common humanity, that all of us, we're all breathing, none of us wants to suffer, and we all want to be happy, and we're all going about that in our own unique ways. But those are the basic drivers. Then we live in a much more connected and interconnected world where commonality becomes the default setting rather than difference. And I think so many of the problems in the world are because we gravitate towards difference rather than living on the basis of commonality. So I just want to touch into that in the meditation. We'll do a grounding practice and then we'll open to common humanity practice. And hopefully out of that, you will leave the session with a little bit more presence, awareness, and a little bit more openness and kindness towards yourself and towards others. Okay, and I've got a request here. Could I speak slower in the meditation? Of course I can. Yes, I will do that. Thank you. All right, then. So let's begin. As always, choosing your position carefully, whether you want to sit, or whether you want to stand, or whether you want to lie down. The principle is simple, that you're looking for a position where your body can be as relaxed as possible and yet alert. And the way we position the body does affect the mind. So if the body's as relaxed as possible, then the mind will also be as relaxed as possible. And alertness in the body will bring about alertness in the mind. So having a couple of minutes to get yourself set up. I'm just going to adjust my chair. Good. And then you can close your eyes if you want to. It's completely up to you. If you don't close your eyes, you might want to just lower your gaze a little bit so that there's less stimulation in your visual field. It's completely up to you though. I'm going to close my eyes because I find that helpful. And let's have a sense of arriving and settling to begin with. Taking a deeper breath. And on the out breath, feeling the body settling down onto the surface it's sitting upon, lying upon, or standing upon. Do that a few more times. Breathing in. Breathing out. Letting the in-breath flow back in again in its own time. When we're tense, agitated in any way, we almost always inhibit the release of the out breath. So allowing the breathing to flow all the way out is naturally calming and can be a wonderful thing to do during the everyday. Seeing if you can give the weight of the body up to gravity. So you're allowing yourself to be fully held and supported by the floor, by the bed, by the chair. Feeling the feet and the legs, allowing awareness to drop right down inside the feet and the legs, being aware of any sensations that are present. If there's anything painful or uncomfortable, seeing if you can allow it into your awareness with kindness. So not pushing it away or tensing against it. And noticing the way the discomfort is changing moment by moment. Maybe it's less static and stuck than you usually experience it. Sense of presence in the legs and the feet. Then coming to the torso, the whole torso, the buttocks, the back of the body, and the front of the torso, and the sides of the torso. And feeling breathing in the whole torso. Seeing if you can get a sense of the whole torso opening in all directions on the in-breath and subsiding in all directions on the out-breath. Letting this be natural. Awareness resting inside the rhythm and flow of breathing in the whole torso. Allowing our awareness to come into the shoulders and then awareness to pour down the arms, all the way to the tips of the fingers and the thumbs. If we're sitting, having the hands resting in the lap or on the thighs, whatever's comfy. If we're lying down, having the hands resting at the side of the body or resting on the belly or the hips, whatever's comfy. If you're standing, having the hands resting lightly at the sides of the body. And seeing if we can allow the shoulders to fall away from the torso. Letting go of holding in the shoulders. Now allowing awareness to pour back up through the arms into the neck, the throat, releasing in the base of the skull and allowing awareness to fill the head and the face. Allowing the face to be soft, the jaw soft. Checking that the breath can flow as freely as possible through the back of the mouth, down to the lungs, and then back out again. And broadening awareness to be aware of the whole body. Legs, torso, arms, neck, head, face. Being present to our experience in the body. And seeing if we can experience the body as a little more fluid and open. The breathing is flowing. Sensations are flowing. If we've got discomfort or pain, we're letting it be there without tightening against it. Letting it come, letting it go. And there'll be pleasant feelings in the body. We let these into awareness. We enjoy them and we let them go. Seeing if we can be kindly towards all of our experience, meeting it with dignity and with care, no matter what is going on physically, mentally, or emotionally. And staying with this experience of kindly breathing in the whole body, let's open our awareness now in our imagination. So we're staying present, but let's open to everybody else on this call in our imagination. There's 44 of us. Of course, we don't know one another, but we can have a sense of 44 other human beings showing up in this space. They've all got bodies. They're all breathing in and out just like us. They've got painful experience they tend to resist just like us. And they long to be happy, fulfilled, content just like us. So even though we look different, we're in different countries, we've probably got different political allegiances, different views and opinions about the state of the world. Deep down, we're all so very, very similar. What's it like to shift from focusing on difference to focus on commonality, shared humanity? So we can breathe in awareness of one another, in our imagination breathing out kindliness and well-wishing towards one another. May we all find presence and openness in our lives. What would it be like to experience other people not as objects, but as someone just like oneself in essence? And to be open and to be kind. It doesn't mean we need to agree on everything, but it means we have this perspective of common humanity guiding us through these turbulent times. Let's broaden our awareness now to, in our imagination, breathe with the whole world. The whole world breathing. 7 billion people just like oneself. Nobody wants to suffer, and we all long to be happy, fulfilled, and content. And bringing the weight of the body to the foreground of awareness. Allowing this imaginal connection with everybody else to drop into the background a wee bit and bringing our own embodied presence to the foreground of awareness. Whole body breathing. Feeling the weight of the body, the stability of the body as we sit, lie, stand right here, right now. And as we begin to bring the meditation to a close, perhaps forming an intention to take this attitude of commonality into your life. So every time you see someone else as an object, see if you can catch that and remind yourself that they're someone just like oneself deep down. As I said, we don't need to agree, but we can still have this sense of shared humanity as our compass, if you like, throughout the day. Beginning to move the body however we want to. Just notice any tendency to immediately grip the breathing, but to keep the breathing soft, the movement soft. And that brings the practice to a close. And perhaps just reflecting, what do you want to do next to continue this flow of awareness? And what we could maybe do is, if you wanted to, you could just put 1 or 2 words to express what you touched into in that practice in the chat box. And then again, it's a nice way of just getting a bit of a sense of the room. What people touched into. $7 billion is a lot, that is true. Kindness, equanimity, shared souls, solidarity, solidity, unlocking resonance with myself. Calm, patient, sadness, yes, that can happen. Feeling more generous, equality, weariness, calm, connection. Lovely, it's so nice just seeing those words. If you've touched into something a little sad or weary, that can easily happen with these practices. So just be tender with yourself. afterwards. And it's quite interesting, sadness. I sometimes think sadness is quite a positive emotion. There's a sort of tender openness to sadness. So whatever we experience, being very careful not to judge it. Yeah. Someone's got some tears coming. Yeah, so just be tender. Connection, peace, lots of peace, which is nice. Good. Non-judgment, that's good. Lovely. Well, that's really beautiful to get those words. And I'll just share something with you that was quite funny. So I had to work with my mindfulness. At one point I got a cough, so I muted myself so I could have a glass of water and have a good cough, and then I couldn't get back in again. So I had to text Ollie saying, let me back in, and luckily he was right there and he let me back in. But that was quite interesting. Sort of I had a moment of thinking, wow, what's going to happen if I can't get back into this guided meditation, and you're all just going to be there for who knows how long, waiting for me to end the practice. So that was quite funny. But I was quite pleased. I didn't panic. I just thought, oh well, what will be, and if that's what happens, that's what happens. So that was quite, in terms of living with uncertainty, I was saying at the beginning, it was happening right there. I thought, I have no idea how I'm going to get back into this Zoom room. So that was quite funny. Yeah, but it was, I really love meditating with you tonight. Thank you all very much for coming. So same time, same place next week. Some of you said you couldn't find the link. So Ollie is going to do something about that. Maybe he's going to put it on the homepage of the Breathworks website a bit more prominently for next week. So what we could do, if you want, you could unmute yourselves if you want to, just to say goodbye. And if you don't want that cacophony, then by all means just leave. But sometimes it's quite nice just for people to come in and be able to say goodbye at the end of the session.
Bye.
Thank you, Vidyamala.
Unmute yourself.
Lovely to see you.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Vidyamala.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello and bye-bye.
Bye.